How a boy transformed his depression into power. You won't believe it. There are moments in life when the pain feels bigger than you, moments when getting out of bed is a battle. Today I'm going to tell you the story of a boy who discovered something that changed everything, that his sadness wasn't his end, it was his beginning. But before I reveal the truth about what happened to him, let me ask you a question that will echo in your mind until the end of this video. What if the hardest thing in your life was exactly what you needed to become extraordinary? His name was Jake. He was only 15 years old when everything collapsed. There was nothing special about Jake back then, no particular skill that made him stand out. He was the type of teenager who went unnoticed in the school hallways, that kid nobody really paid attention to. But behind that faded face, there was a heart that was bleeding. The sadness in Jake wasn't that passing sadness that goes away after a few days. It was that deep, dense sadness that weighs on your shoulders from the moment you open your eyes. It all started when his parents separated. It wasn't a typical divorce with a fight or argument. It was something worse, quieter. His parents simply stopped looking at each other. They stopped talking. And one day his father left, leaving only a note on the kitchen table. Jake woke up every morning looking at that gray room, with posters he no longer wanted to look at. His hands trembled. His chest burned. The feeling was like sinking in quicksand while everyone around him simply kept on living. At school, while his classmates laughed and joked around, Jake felt the emptiness growing every day. He tried to smile. He tried to seem normal, but inside there was only darkness. His eyes lost their shine more and more. He stopped doing the things he loved. The music that used to make him jump with joy now sounded like crying. The movies that used to make him laugh now seemed empty. His mother tried to help, tried to talk, but Jake had built walls around himself. He didn't want anyone to see his weakness. He didn't want anyone to know how much it was hurting. Nighttime was the worst. Jake would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, and that thought always appeared. Why do people give up on those they love? Why did he just leave? What's wrong with me that makes people give up? These questions tormented him. They haunted him like ghosts in the darkness. Everything changed on an ordinary Tuesday, when life placed a man in Jake's path. His name was Robert, and he was the new physical education teacher at school. But Robert wasn't that type of teacher who just taught material and gave grades. There was something different about him. When Robert looked into people's eyes, it was as if he could see through all the disguises we wore. He noticed Jake. On a day when the class was doing exercises, Jake simply sat in a corner refusing to participate. While other teachers would have ignored it, Robert calmly approached and simply sat down beside him. He didn't ask anything, didn't pressure, just stayed there in silence. Jake noticed something in Robert's eyes. It wasn't pity, it wasn't judgment, it was recognition. It was as if Robert understood exactly the kind of pain Jake was carrying, because he too had carried one once. That afternoon, Robert simply said, "Jake, you don't need to talk now, but when you're ready, my office has an open door." Robert had a story. He had lost his 7-year-old daughter in a car accident 10 years ago. The guilt destroyed him. He ended up losing his career, his family, almost lost his life. But one day, after years of wandering aimlessly, Robert met someone who taught him a lesson that changed everything. And now, Robert dedicated his life to passing that knowledge forward, especially to young people like Jake who were lost. When Jake finally knocked on Robert's office door, a week later, something inside him knew his life was about to change. Robert offered chamomile tea, and as they drank, began to tell not just about his pain, but about how he had learned to transform it. He was wise, but not in a distant way. He was wise in a way that came from real battles, from sleepless nights, from tears shed. And when someone carries that kind of wisdom, people feel it. They trust, because they understand that no one who hasn't suffered can truly help you. A week later, Robert called Jake to a special place. It wasn't a classroom. It wasn't an office. It was the mountain that surrounded the town, specifically a narrow path that ran along the top of a cliff. The place was beautiful but disturbing. On one side, the view of the entire city. On the other side, a 300-meter drop, Robert asked Jake to hold onto a rope that was tied to an old tree. "Jake," he said, "I see that you're stuck in a place very similar to this path. On one side, you see the beauty of life, all the possibilities. On the other side, you see only the void, the pain, the fall, and the rope you're holding. That's your survival, your routine. You hold tight out of fear of falling, but that grip is also suffocating you." Jake looked at the rope in his hands. It was exactly how he felt, stuck between two sides of an abyss. Then Robert presented the challenge. "I'm going to have you walk this narrow path, but not because I want to put you at risk. I do this because you need to feel something. You need to face fear head on, because that's the only way you discover that fear isn't real. It's an illusion." Jake started walking, his hand trembling on the rope, his eyes closed with each step. The wind blew hard. His thoughts became chaotic. "I'm going to fall, I'm going to fall. This was a mistake, I'm going to fall." But then something strange started to happen. Each step he took, despite the fear, his breathing began to get stronger. His heart, which was beating fast, began to synchronize with something bigger, something beyond panic. The void didn't disappear, but for the first time, Jake managed to walk within that void without being completely consumed by it. Robert walked behind him. "Feel the fear, Jake," he said calmly. "Don't try to eliminate it, just feel it. Recognize that it exists, but also recognize that you're alive, that you're here, that despite the fear, you keep moving." When Jake reached the end of the path, his legs were shaking, but his eyes were different. There was a shine there that had disappeared months ago. Robert then asked Jake to sit on a rock with that view of 300 meters of the entire world below him. And there, in that moment, he revealed the truth that would change everything. "The pain you feel, Jake, it's not an accident. It's not a mistake of the universe. It's a message. And that message is, you're strong enough to bear it. You're big enough to transform it." Robert picked up a piece of black coal that was on the ground. "You know what this is? It's the same material as a diamond. The only difference? Pressure. When coal is under immense pressure, it becomes the most precious material in the world. And you, Jake, you're under pressure, the worst pressure, but it's not to destroy you. It's to transform you." In that moment, something happened inside Jake that he couldn't explain with words. It was as if all that sadness he had carried transformed into something solid, into something he could hold, into something that finally made sense. The pain was still there, but it was no longer there to destroy him. It was there to forge him. Robert continued, "Your sadness, Jake, it's your greatest strength, because someone who has faced the abyss, someone who has known the void, he knows something that most people will never know. He knows that life is valuable. He knows that every moment is a gift. And when you know that, you live differently. You love differently. You create differently. Your sadness will become compassion. Your fear will become courage. Your darkness will become the light that guides other people." Jake cried in that moment. But it wasn't a cry of pain. It was a cry of liberation. It was as if all the toxic water that was inside him finally found an exit. And as the tears fell, he could see for the first time that this water that had destroyed so much could also water other things. It could feed growth. It could create life. The months that followed weren't magical. Jake didn't wake up one day and suddenly all his sadness disappeared. Life doesn't work that way. But something fundamental had changed. Jake started drawing. He had always loved drawing, but had abandoned it because nothing seemed beautiful compared to his pain. But now he drew exactly that pain. He drew dark figures emerging from hearts that glowed. He drew abysses with stars inside. And when other people saw his drawings, they cried, because those drawings spoke a truth that many people felt but could never express. Jake started talking to other students at school, not as the sad boy who tried to make jokes to fit in, but as someone who truly understood everyone's struggle. A boy in 9th grade who had lost his grandmother sought out Jake just to talk. A girl who was being bullied at school found courage in Jake's eyes because she could see that he had suffered and was still here. The sadness that had isolated Jake now connected him with everyone around him. Jake went to Robert's office and said, "I want to study psychology. I want to do what you do. I want to help other people transform their pain into power." Robert smiled. It wasn't the smile of a satisfied teacher. It was the smile of someone who had seen a miracle happen. 5 years later, Jake was a psychology student. But more important than that, he was a young man who had understood a profound truth about life. All our weakness, all our pain, all our sadness, it can be transmuted, transformed, converted into something that serves. He still missed his father. His parents' separation still hurt. But now, that pain had meaning. It had taught him about abandonment, about self-abandonment, about how we can abandon ourselves and then come back. And that knowledge made him a guide for other people. His favorite drawing now hung on the wall of his room. It was a drawing of a person emerging from a bonfire, and instead of black smoke, birds flew out toward the sky. He had hung that drawing in the office where he works as a volunteer, helping young people who are going through what Jake once went through. Now, you who are watching this video may be wondering why I'm telling this story. The answer is simple, because you're also on the narrow path. Maybe it's not a literal cliff, but emotionally you're somewhere on that mountain. You may be going through a separation, a loss, a betrayal, a rejection, a failure, an illness, an uncertainty about the future, and the temptation is always the same: to give up, to let go of the rope, to let the darkness beat you. But let me tell you something Jake learned, and that I believe with all the depth of my soul. Your sadness isn't your end. It's your beginning. It's the raw material that will be transformed into who you were always meant to be. The most valuable diamonds in the world aren't created in comfortable environments. They're created under extreme pressure, in the darkness of the depths of the earth. And yet, they shine. They shine precisely because they know that darkness. Because they went through that transformation. You may be breaking now, you may be feeling completely shattered, but breaking isn't the opposite of strength. Breaking is part of transformation. Seeds need to break to grow. Bones need to break to become stronger. You need to break to become what you were always meant to be. And here's the truth nobody tells you. The person you'll be after facing this darkness, they will be priceless. Because they won't just be someone who lived an easy life. They'll be someone who knew their own abyss and still chose to live. They'll be someone who can guide other people because they know the way. They'll be someone who sees the beauty of life not as something obvious, but as something precious, because they almost lost it. If you're at this moment carrying a heavy sadness, carrying a pain that seems bigger than you, I want you to know there's a Robert waiting for you. It could be a teacher, a counselor, a friend, a community. There's someone who has already been through this, and who is waiting for you to tell you that it's possible. It's possible to transform. It's possible to transcend. But more importantly, you need to understand that this transformation begins with a single step. Just one. It's not a big leap. It's just you getting up tomorrow. It's you holding the rope even when you want to let go. It's you allowing someone to help you when everything tells you to ask no one for help. Jake's sadness became his superpower. His isolation became his path to connect. His darkness became his light. And you? What can your pain become? What kind of diamond can you turn into? If this story touched your heart, if you saw a bit of yourself in Jake, there are 3 things I want you to do. First, share this video with someone who's going through a difficult time. You don't know, but that person might be waiting for exactly this message. Second, leave a like and subscribe to this channel, because we have more stories like this that will inspire and transform you. And third, in the comments, write which part of this story resonated most with you. Because when you write, you don't just comment. You recognize the truth within you. Remember, you're not your sadness, you're not your pain. You are what you choose to do with it. Thank you for being here with me on this journey. I'll see you in the next video.